Good morning, this is Chad with Drawn and Cornered. It is October 21st, 2021, and we have a few things to go over today as far as the news that you need. First off, discussions with Joe Manchin have seemingly stalled or at least hit kind of a dragging point. Now, initially, all of this is surrounding the two bills that have been proposed by Dems. We've got a infrastructure bill, which is bipartisan, that has a lot of support kind of in the middle across Democratic circles, other than progressives, which still support it, but they're holding it hostage for a $3.5 trillion everything stimulus spending bill reconciliation that is strictly Democratic. There will be no Republican support for this. So they need all 50 in order to be able to get it across. Now, there have been two standouts for that bill, which are Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema. At this point, Joe Manchin has said that he will not do the 3.5 trillion, wants it down to like a 1.75 trillion, which means a bunch of stuff has to be cut, a bunch of stuff has to be shortened, and he's talked about where that's going to sit. And he wants climate pulled out of it. He wants long-term plans taken out of it. There's child care, all that stuff is taken out of it for him. Now, there's been pushback from Joe Biden. There's been pushback from progressives on this. And Joe Manchin finally kind of dropped the hammer a little bit and said that if this isn't brought down to the 1.75, he is thinking about leaving the Democratic Party. And that's going to be a two-part process. And he's detailed how that would happen. First off, he would dump any sort of Democratic leadership positions first. And just kind of shot across the bow, he would let Chuck Schumer know, hey, this is going to happen if you don't fix this in fairly short order. About a week later, he said he will change his registration from Democrat to independent, no longer be listed as a Democrat. Now, where this becomes really interesting is, one, that doesn't look good. It makes a lot of news and just kind of looks like your party's falling apart a little bit. But it depends on who he caucuses with. Now, this happened way back in, I want to say it was 2002 or 2004 with Jim Jeffords, where he switched parties after being elected and kind of threw everything into a little bit of a tailspin. If Joe Manchin were to do that, if he were to caucus with the Republicans, Senate flips. It turns into a majority Republican Senate, and just everything changes. Everything changes. And he has an enormous amount of power, and I would be surprised if because of this power, because of this threat, because of the fact that what he's saying actually makes a lot of sense, like just get this infrastructure bill taken care of, we can limit what we're putting into this second reconciliation bill and still have some really good stuff there. It doesn't make any sense to throw the baby out with the bathwater, which is what the progressives want to do. So I would be surprised if this wasn't an effective way for him to get what he wants. And if he really would pull the trigger on that gun and flip the Senate, if he doesn't get what he wants. I would be curious to know if that happens, but you're going to see a lot of conflict with this. I imagine the pressure on him coming from the side of talking about corruption because he's got family business that's in coal, because any dollars that he's taken in the past to influence him, any choices that he's made in the past, this is all going to come out to try and dirty him up a little bit and make that decision swing their direction. But I don't know if it'll work. He seems pretty staunch on it. So we'll see how that goes. The second story I want to talk about is one that I kind of hate, but I think it has to be told, and I think it has to be told in this manner. So Netflix yesterday had a bunch of employees that were super disappointed about Dave Chappelle's new comedy special, The Closer. He made some jokes about trans folks in there, and trans employees and trans allies and such started hammering Netflix about the fact that this even existed on the platform. And yesterday they held their walkout. And during the course of this walkout, they also released a list of demands. And I want to read you some of these demands just so you can see where these folks are coming from and what they're thinking about when it comes to this. So because of David Chappelle releasing a special that has jokes about trans people in it, it has jokes about black people, about military, about white people, about Hispanics in there, gays, of course. Makes fun of all sorts of different people, but it's the trans stuff that is really the focal point. What they want, what they demand, what they demand from Netflix is to create a new fund specifically to develop trans and non-binary talent. This fund should support both above the line and below the line talent. This fund should exist in addition to the existing Creative Equity Fund, and they want to increase investments in trans and non-binary content on Netflix comparable to our total investment in transphobic content, qualifying Dave Chappelle as transphobic content. Because of leaked documents, we found out that's probably right in the neighborhood of like $15 to $20 million that Netflix put into that special. So they want to increase the investment in that type of content to total whatever transphobic content out there is, including marketing and promotion. So they want these shows promoted the exact same way that you would promote a Dave Chappelle. Invest in multiple trans creators to make both scripted and unscripted programs across genre, revive internal processing, increase the ERG role in conversations and potentially harmful content, hire trans and other non-binary content executives, especially people of color in leading positions. This continues into employee relations, recruiting trans people, especially BIPOC, for leadership roles in the company, eliminate references and imagery of transphobic titles or talent inside the workplace, including but not limited to murals, posters, room names, and swag. So they don't want any Dave Chappelle gear anywhere in Netflix, though he is one of the reasons why Netflix is in the comedy game. He's had 3 specials over the past couple of years and done extraordinarily well with all of them. And this brings me to the point that I wanted to mention, because I think this ties into another story where the New York City Council has removed a statue of Thomas Jefferson from their halls because presumably Thomas Jefferson owned slaves at one point and thus will be judged on that sin alone, not everything else he did. And this seems to be what we need to discuss here. So Thomas Jefferson, the framer of the Declaration of Independence, one of the original founding fathers, 3rd president, all of these things that crafted the world that we currently live in and make America one of the greatest countries in the world to live in as any individual, whether that's trans, black, white, rich, poor. America is not a terrible place to be, partially because of the things that Jefferson did to make it so. And yet, in the same way as Netflix, Dave Chappelle and Netflix are the reason these employees have the jobs that they have. They're the reason that these employees are able to work in the career that they have, is because of people like Dave Chappelle that are creating content for Netflix that drives viewership, and because of Netflix taking hard stands and putting out things that are cutting edge. You look at Squid Game, extraordinarily violent program, is also one of the leading draws for Netflix right now. But that's not something that's at issue. It's only somebody who says bad things about people. And if you watch comedy at all, you'll find that bad things or jokes are said about people all the time. And I would urge you, if you have not seen The Closer, if you need to do it just for research, if you need to sit down with a pen and paper, if you need to do it in bits, find a way to watch this program. I had heard about this hubbub, and knowing his previous Sticks and Stones special did have quite a few trans jokes in it that could conceivably hurt somebody's feelings, I'm sure, as any joke probably could. This episode, if you come away from The Closer thinking that Dave Chappelle doesn't have a heart for trans people and doesn't care about trans people, doesn't see their humanity, I don't know what you watched. This is one of the greatest comedy specials I've ever seen, and the ability for him to weave in a narrative into a story, into the comedy, that makes everyone feel what he wants you to feel is second to none. It was world class. And to have this specific comedy special be the focal point for all of these outrage sessions is absurd at best. And I would argue it's intentionally meant to miss the point, because that's sort of what comedy does. And my contention was that comedy is a great place to have hard conversations, or at least begin hard conversations, because two people can sit side by side and laugh about things about themselves, things about their culture, things about other people's cultures, and get that conversation started in a warm, inviting environment where essentially there is no third rail unless you have trans folks in the room. And that is the problem with this type of walkout, this type of protest, is that what you're doing is saying that the subject matter that deals with you is off limits. And as Joe Rogan had said today, things that you cannot joke about are the truly dangerous ideas. And that is what trans people want to have happen. They don't want to be able to have trans jokes out there. They think that is a problem. And the problem is that they don't think jokes can be told. And that needs to be solved. And understanding in the same way as Thomas Jefferson that this is how we got here. You're riding on the shoulders of giants and think you're flying. And that's a problem for us across the board. Not recognizing how we got here and the massive amount of difficulty to put us in these pristine conditions that we're currently in, I think is just disingenuous, it's arrogant, and it's a total lack of gratitude is really damaging to all of us. That's everything that I have for today. Thank you very much for watching. We will continue to produce episodes once or every day of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We will put in anything out on the weekend if there's something big that happens. So if you like that type of thing, want to get a little bit of news, a little bit of analysis, you can have your day set. Subscribe down below if you think I'm crazy, correct, totally off my gourd. Also, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Hit that bell so you get notifications anytime we upload a new video. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again tomorrow.